Your business isn't growing right now because you're simply too good at your job. You are the bottleneck preventing your own wealth. I see this every single day with high performers. You pride yourself on being the person who can do it all, from sales calls to fulfillment. But let's be honest, you aren't building a company. You're just building a job that you happen to own. Here is the brutal reality of the entrepreneur's curse. Your competence is currently the ceiling on your income. When you refuse to delegate, you trade your time for money. That is linear income. If you work 80 hours a week, you get paid for 80 hours. But if you get sick, go on vacation, or simply need to sleep, your revenue hits a brick wall. True wealth isn't built on how many hours you clock. It's built on leveraged equity. While you are busy micromanaging the details of your daily operations, the small stuff, you are neglecting the systems that allow a business to scale without your constant presence. If you are the machine, your growth is limited by the biological constraints of your own body. You are trapped in a cycle where you are the most valuable employee in your firm, which effectively makes you the most expensive obstacle in your own path to financial freedom. You need to transition from being the engine of your business to the architect of your business. If you continue to prioritize being the best at your job today, you are actively choosing to sacrifice your equity and your freedom for the sake of temporary, high-effort cash flow. In this video, I am going to show you exactly how to dismantle that bottleneck. Stop being the everything person and start building a machine that grows while you sleep. I want you to look at your calendar right now. If your day is packed with back-to-back tasks, you aren't a business owner. You are a high-level employee with no boss to tell you when to go home. Here is the cold, hard math of the bottleneck. There are only 8,760 hours in a year. No matter how much coffee you drink or how many productivity hacks you master, that is your hard ceiling. If your income is tied to your direct output, your net worth is effectively capped by your hourly rate. Let's run the numbers, shall we? If you charge $100 an hour and work 40 hours a week for 50 weeks, you hit $200,000. That sounds like a win to most people. It's a solid salary, right? But in the world of wealth management, that is a trap. It's active income, meaning the moment you stop, the cash flow stops. To build real wealth, I need you to understand the concept of leveraged equity. In finance, we use the rule of 72 to estimate how long it takes an investment to double. You divide 72 by your annual rate of return. If you get a 10% return, your money doubles in 7.2 years. But when you are the bottleneck in your business, your rate of return on your time eventually hits zero because you cannot work more than 24 hours in a day. However, when you remove yourself from operations and build a system, you are essentially creating a high-yield asset. If you reinvest your profits into hiring a team or automating your sales funnel, you aren't just buying back your time. You are increasing the velocity of your equity growth. Warning. This brings us to the most expensive mistake I see entrepreneurs make: the opportunity cost of the cheap task. Every time you spend an hour handling a $20 per hour task, like responding to basic customer inquiries or managing your own scheduling, you are actively choosing to lose money. Authoritative? Why? Because that is an hour you aren't spending on a $500 per hour strategic decision, like negotiating a major contract or optimizing your tax structure. Analytical. If you spend 4 hours a day on $20 tasks, you've essentially paid $1,920 for the privilege of staying busy. That's nearly $2,000 a day in lost potential. You think you're saving money by doing it yourself, but you are actually hemorrhaging wealth. You are trading your most valuable, non-renewable resource for a task that could be handled by a system or a junior assistant. But I know what you're thinking. I can't delegate yet because nobody does it as well as I do. Sarcastic? That single sentence is the reason most businesses stay small and most founders stay exhausted. Because while you're busy being the best technician in the room, you're missing the one detail that actually dictates whether your business survives the next 5 years. To scale your business beyond your own physical labor, you need a strategy.
I recommend following this three-step systematization method. First, you must master SOP documentation. If you cannot explain the process to a complete stranger in writing, you do not actually have a business. You have a job. You need to record yourself performing your most repetitive tasks, client onboarding, billing, or lead research, and transform those recordings into standard operating procedures. This documentation becomes the asset that allows you to replace yourself. Second, implement the system buyback. I want you to take 20% of your net profit and treat it as a capital investment, not an expense. Many founders view hiring as a cost that reduces their take home pay, which is precisely why they stay stagnant. I view it differently. If you spend $2,000 to automate a process that saves you 10 hours a week, you aren't spending money. You are buying back your own time to focus on high leverage growth. When you stop looking at your profit as money to be saved and start viewing it as capital to be allocated toward efficiency, your business model fundamentally changes. Third, you must shift your personal focus to high leverage activities. Once your systems handle the operations, your role shifts to capital allocation and client acquisition. You are now the architect, not the bricklayer, right? You should be spending your energy on where the next $1 million is coming from, not on answering emails or refining minor details that don't move the revenue needle. But here is where most people get it wrong. They execute these steps and still fail to see the growth they expected because they ignore the ROI secret that actually governs whether this investment yields a 2x or a 10x return. I'll break down that specific metric in the next section. Let's run a simulation to see why your current hard work, that grind, is actually your biggest bottleneck. I want you to look at two different versions of your business: calm, analytical.
Now, look at the second scenario. You take that same $100,000 net profit, but you commit to a 20% reinvestment model. You live on $80,000 and inject $20,000 back into the machine. This isn't for overhead. This is for leverage. You spend that $20,000 on a specialized virtual assistant or a software automation suite that handles your lead generation. We're targeting a conservative 15 to 20% ROI on that reinvested capital. That $20,000 investment doesn't just buy you your time back, it creates a compounding wealth engine. I mean, think about it. When you scale this to a $1 million net profit level, the gap becomes a canyon. At a 20% reinvestment rate on a $1 million profit, you are pouring $200,000 back into scaling, talent, and systems every single year. If you hit that 20% ROI target, you're adding $40,000 in automated value to your bottom line without increasing your personal workload by a single minute. This is the transition from being the engine of the business to owning the engine. You've created a wealth-building system that functions independently of your physical presence. By choosing to buy your growth rather than work for it, you've decoupled your income from your hours. But there is a specific danger here. Most entrepreneurs see these numbers and try to jump from 100K to 1 million without checking the foundation. If you reinvest that capital into a system that hasn't reached its efficiency floor, you won't see a 20% return. You'll see your investment vanish into a black hole of administrative waste. There is one specific metric that tells you exactly when to pull the trigger on these investments, and if you miss it, the whole engine stalls. Let me show you how to calculate it. The reality is simple. Your business will only ever be as efficient as the systems you build to replace yourself. If you are still the hero of your own daily operations, you aren't running a business. You are, quite frankly, just managing a very expensive job. To transition from a self-employed professional to a true wealth architect, you must embrace a fundamental truth. You are replaceable. In fact, you should be. Your role is not to be the most skilled person in the room. Your role is to be the most effective allocator of capital and human talent. When you remove your ego from the equation, you stop trading your time for linear income and start building a machine that generates exponential wealth. You see, while you can hire someone to replicate your skills, you cannot hire someone to replicate your ownership, your vision, or the way you deploy capital to compound your net worth. That right there, that is where your true leverage lies. If you are ready to fire yourself from your daily tasks and stop being the bottleneck in your own success,
comment the word system below. I want to hear what you are planning to delegate first to reclaim your time. If you found this breakdown on business scaling valuable, make sure to subscribe to Wealth Architects. In our upcoming sessions, we are going to dive deeper into the specific metrics of capital allocation, ensuring that when you do invest, you are building a foundation that scales to 7 figures and beyond. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and start building.